Hello there. Welcome to another edition of All About Leadership. All About Leadership comes to you on the very first day of every month. And I use the opportunity to share some of my thoughts on a very important aspect of leadership. All About Leadership comes to you from Emmet Leadership Academy. At Emmet Leadership Academy, where I am founder and CEO, we nurture leaders based on truth. We nurture leaders based on truth. And on today's edition, the July edition of All About Leadership, we're talking about bad leaders. Bad leaders, they're all over the place. Bad leaders, we're always complaining about bad leaders. Bad leaders, we wish we had good leaders. Bad leaders, everyone is crying out against them daily and desiring to see the emergence of good leadership. That's what we'll be focusing on today. And I want to submit to you today that bad leaders are not to blame. Bad leaders aren't to blame. That is the focus of my thoughts today. And I would like to explain why that is the case and what needs to be done. If they are not to blame, then what do we do about that? If they are not to blame, how do we redress the consequences of their bad leadership? That's what I'll be drawing your attention to today. And hopefully after today, whenever you encounter bad leadership, you know exactly what to do. You know how to deal. You know how to still prosper, how to succeed in spite of bad leadership. That's our focus today, and I'll be with you shortly. All right, so bad leaders aren't to blame. And I'd like to insist on that. I maintain that bad leaders are not to blame. And I want to show you how. When we say bad leaders are to blame, as many of us blame bad leaders, and we not only blame bad leaders for just any reason, we blame bad leaders because we are unable to meet our needs under their leadership. We're unable to enjoy life or work or business, as the case may be, under their leadership. We're unable to realize our goals under their leadership. When we're under the bad leadership, it appears that we have no future. We're wondering, how do we get out of this? And this is at every level, at the national level, at the state level, at corporate levels. At every level of leadership, there are bad leaders. Bad leaders are a phenomenon. In actual fact, bad leaders are more than leaders. The reason the world is where it is today is because of bad leadership. Bad leadership is predominant. It's not different from the days of the Pharisees, where they were all full of hypocrisy. One of the hallmarks of bad leadership, hypocrisy. All right, we're still there, and I'd imagine maybe it's even worse. The world is much larger in terms of population today. A lot more people exist today. The needs of people to be met is far more today than hitherto. Yet, as Jesus said, the fields are green, with harvest, but the laborers are few. All right, a lot of people require the input of leadership to realize their destiny, to make their lives better, to develop their character, to develop themselves, to take advantage of their gifts. But all of these things depend on the input of leadership. And he gave some apostles and some prophets and some evangelists, teachers and pastors for the perfecting of the saints. That tells you the importance of leadership. You cannot attain to your best. You cannot realize or maximize your full potential without the input of leadership. That's how it is. That's how God has, structured it. You need the input of leadership. Paul realized that, and he conveyed that in that statement, that for you to attain unto a level of perfection, you need the input of leadership. You need the input of good leaders. You need relevant leadership input to get there. So we complain about bad leadership, and we have a right to do that, because bad leadership will get us nowhere. Bad leadership means there are bad people who do not know how to lead, or who lead contrary to the codes of leadership. All right, they lead contrary to the codes of leadership, and certainly they don't lead like Jesus led. Bad leadership is a problem. Bad leadership is dangerous. Bad leadership comes at a huge cost. Bad leadership involves too much of a trade-off. Bad leadership deprives us all of getting to heights that we are destined to. But unfortunately, bad leadership stands in the way of our progress, in the way of our growth and development, in the way of realizing our full potential. Bad leadership is dangerous. Bad leadership can be a headache. Bad leadership is a source of worry for many. But so it's a phenomenon that we can have. There is nothing to look forward to under bad leadership. Jesus said, a good tree will produce only good fruits, and a bad tree will produce bad fruit. There is no way a good tree will produce good fruit. A good tree will produce bad fruit, and no way for a good tree to produce bad fruit. Every tree produces after its kind. So if we're going to have, good people, good leaders, and the consistent supply of good leadership, we need to have good leaders. We need to have good leaders. Otherwise, it just makes life that much more difficult for us. It just makes life that much more difficult for us. But that's not, I haven't come to celebrate the difficulty that bad leaders present. I have come with a silver bullet to show that there is an antidote to bad leadership. At least as far as you and I are concerned, as far as we determine or we desire to realize our objectives and our goals, there is an antidote. We don't have to make do or bear with or accommodate bad leadership. We don't have to tolerate bad leadership. There is something that we can do. We are not helpless under bad leadership. A nation is not helpless under bad leadership. Nigeria is not helpless under bad leadership. Once you complain, once you have a good basis to complain about leadership, know that you are not helpless. You are not helpless. You are not helpless. First of all, you are not obliged to follow a bad leader. All right? But that's not even what I want to do in this session today. What I want to deal with is that there is a way out to realize your goals, to meet your needs, to make progress under bad leadership. And a lot of people need to hear this. For example, some people have complained to me repeatedly having challenges with office politics doing damage to their career. They are stagnated, they are frustrated as a result. They are doing great work, they are excellent, they meet their targets. But when it comes to recognizing and rewarding, people, they are always left out. They are always left out. And they don't, some naively believe that office politics is evil. That's just because that's the limit of their understanding. It's not evil, but the point is, you are in an environment and there's a way things are done in the environment. You need to take responsibility. That's precisely what I want to talk about today. Under bad leadership, you need to take responsibility. You need to take responsibility. You and I need to take responsibility. Our failure to take responsibility is what gives bad leadership a field day. Our failure to take responsibility is the problem that we have with bad leadership. Our failure to take responsibility is why we are preoccupied with just complaining under bad leadership. And it ought not to be. It ought not to be. In actual fact, we don't have bad leaders to blame. Once that phenomenon, shows itself, we have ourselves to blame if we do nothing about bad leadership. We have ourselves to blame. We have ourselves to blame because under bad leadership, we are not helpless. No follower is helpless. The only helpless follower is the one who does not take responsibility. Is the one who does not do what he or she is supposed to do. Is the one who lacks knowledge, or maybe even knows but refuses to act. Either way, you will keep suffering under bad leadership. And I want to share with you something from one of the parables of Jesus that shows this silver bullet. The reason I call it a silver bullet is that only one thing is required for followers to do: to checkmate bad leadership and to ensure that they get what they desire, the good benefits of leadership that they desire. Only one thing is required. Jesus often said, but one thing is needful. He told, Martha and Mary that when Mary was complaining about an issue, he said, but one thing is needful. And Mary has made that decision. He has made that choice. So there is something that we need to do. One thing that we need to do that will checkmate bad leadership. Anywhere at any level. There's one thing that we need to do that will checkmate bad leadership. Anywhere at any level. That's what we want to examine. That's what I want to bring out for you from the parables of Jesus. If you are not one who has any, appreciation for these teachings of Jesus, I would encourage you to take an interest in that. And let me invite you to the EQUIP Bootcamp, where we use the parables of Jesus, their deep secrets, their teachings, the practices, the principles, the strategies, to cultivate in people like you the spirit of excellence, to build capacity to excel, like Daniel, like Jesus. When you understand these kingdom principles and you know how to apply them, it makes life a lot easier for you. That's what the boot camp is about. I want to draw your attention to one of the benefits, in this one of those parables, hoping that you will use that as an example, get a feel of what is available in the bootcamp, where we actually discuss the 38 parables that Jesus spoke. Comprehensive, deep study. Okay? Now, I'm talking about the parable of the persistent widow. The parable of the persistent widow. Jesus spoke that parable in Luke 18. And he spoke that parable starting from verse 1. He said unto them, he said, men always ought to pray and not lose heart. Men always ought to pray and not lose heart. Men always ought to pray and not lose heart. And then went ahead and described this situation of this widow. The widow, alone, weak, vulnerable, having no one to really fight for her. And the widow was contending with adversaries. Maybe some people were struggling with her, to take over the property of her husband and stuff like that. There was this adversary that was of concern to the widow. And what did the widow do? She ran to a judge. So the widow basically turned to the system that was in place for help. The judge being only an agent of the system. The judge by himself had no power, but the judge was empowered because he was appointed by the system. All right? So he had the powers of the system delegated to him. But unfortunately, an obstacle arose again. The judge was a corrupt judge. The judge had no regard for God. He had no regard for man. He only did what he wanted to do, irrespective. A corrupt judge. So she ran to this judge, to the system, discovered that she was contending with a corrupt judge. And what did she do? She began to demand for justice. That's all she wanted. Give me justice. All right, against my adversaries. That was her plea. And the judge would not listen to her because he was a corrupt judge. She had a strong case. She had come to the right place. She had gone to the system to bail her out. The provisions of the law were clear. And she knew that she could get justice by running to the system. There was a corrupt judge who stood on her way, did his own thing, had no regard for the rules, had no regard, for the rule book that he was supposed to operate with. He only did his own thing. But did she give up? No, she did not give up. Did she say, well, what do I do? A corrupt judge. Did she succumb to bribe the judge? No, she didn't do that. So when many of us succumb and we bribe at whatever level, then we're succumbing to the system. We're allowing bad leadership to have a field day, and we are entrenching bad leadership, all right, and even emboldening the bad leader. That's not what we should do. The lady did not take notice of the corrupt judge, but refused to accept the corruption of the system by the judge. The system was not corrupt, the judge was the corrupt one. The system was put in place to support her, to deliver justice to her. She chose to believe in the system and not to believe in the judge and to take the judge on. How did she take the judge on? She was not violent. Violence is not the silver bullet. It doesn't solve any problem. That's not what it is. Violence is not wisdom. What she did was wisdom at play. And we need to learn from it. She refused to accept the corruption, knowing that it was limited to the judge. And therefore, she insisted. She kept on going, and every time she went to the judge, she made only one demand. Give me justice from my adversary. She was saying to the judge, you have been put here for a reason, to dispense justice. That's all I'm asking you. Do precisely that. That's all I'm asking. And I'm going to ensure that you do it, because the reason you are here is because of people like me. And by the way, she didn't say that, Jesus didn't say that in the parable. By the way, you are sustained by the taxes you pay. So you must give me jobs. And what did Jesus say? Which is the secret and also the mystery with wicked and corrupt people that many of us overlook. They are not powerful. They are not more powerful than you are. You are more powerful than they are. One, because you are standing on the path of righteousness. The righteous are bold as the lion. And two, because if you have wisdom, if you have command of this secret, you will hear them out. Jesus said, that judge began to complain. That look at this woman, she's troubling me. He said, if I continue this way, with this corrupt attitude, this woman will weary me. He said, so let me just give her what you want. Let me do away with her. Hello. Oh, so corrupt people have limits. Bad leaders have limits. The judge was a leader. As far as that woman was concerned, as far as the society was concerned, the woman looked up to people like the judge as leaders, expecting them to do what is right, expecting them to take decisions that will better the lot of the people. So she approached the leader as it were. But turns out this was a bad leader, not a bad system, a bad leader presiding over a system that was well structured. And so those of us who are leaders need to understand that you will never be more powerful than the system that put you there. The powers of the leader, the authorities of the leader, they are derived. They are not yours. They are derived. Somebody somewhere appointed you. A system somewhere appointed you, gave you the opportunity to play a role. You are an agent. Every leader is an agent. Every leader is sent. Whoever sent you can withdraw you. Whoever delegated power to you or authority to you can withdraw the authority. And that's what we need to know under bad leadership, is that when we pile the pressure and refuse to accept bad leadership and demand continually for good leadership, the leader will yield. They don't have capacity. They cannot handle trouble. He's going to heal the secret. He said, this man was afraid. Now this widow did not do anything, didn't hold anything, didn't even say, I'm going to report you. This widow only said, persistently, give me justice. Do what you are put here to do. And I'm not going to leave you until and unless it is done. Think about it. If you will do that, if I will do that, we won't complain about bad leadership. So the woman in that circumstance got what she wanted. She got a good outcome, had desired outcome, the righteous outcome, the right outcome from a bad leader. That stood as an obstacle in a good system. Many of our systems are good. The intention of those who structured the system were good. Systems are very powerful because from them, the authority and the power of the leader is derived. You can't, as a leader, be more powerful than the system that put you there. However powerful a president is, he cannot be more powerful than the system that put him there. And the people that he's serving need to understand that. When they understand that, they use it as a silver bullet to checkmate excesses, to checkmate whatever they consider to be bad leadership. At least you put the challenge back, all right, on the leader. to prove that he or she is doing what is right, that he or she is doing what is right. Bad leaders are not to blame. Followers aren't taking responsibility. Followers aren't taking responsibility. Notice something that Jesus then went on to say. Jesus said, if bad leaders that we have will give under pressure in response to persistent faith of the followers, what is good, what they desire, what about him? He said he will do it speedily, meaning that when good leaders are in place, you speedily get them because they do the right thing, and you don't have to waste time piling pressure in order to get them. But when you have bad leaders, and they will be there every now and then, well, it doesn't change anything more. All that will happen is that you have to pile pressure. You have to deploy persistent faith. Jesus said, I'm a good leader. I'm your father. Whatever you ask, I will give you speedily. I will give you faster than a bad leader will give you. That's true. And if you have a good leader in a position, you will get good things faster from him, good benefits faster from him than from a bad leader. But it doesn't mean that when you have a bad leader, all hope needs to be lost. All hope is not lost at all. The power is still in the hands of the follower. It is whether or not the follower will understand that and will be able to use it. The bad leaders are not to blame. They are corrupt, yes. We're expecting things from them, great. But when they don't come through, what do? You and I often lack of persistent faith to push our demands through. If you had it, you won't be complaining about people in your office. You won't be complaining about office politics. If you are really, doing your job, if you are really delivering performance, if you are really developing your ability to lead, you won't complain about people cheating you, not giving you what is due to you, because anywhere that you have something that is due to you and you are ready to give it the persistent faith to make the demand and to back it up. That woman went and demanded for it. You don't keep your mouth shut. You speak up and you ask for what exactly you want, the benefit that you want to derive, which you can justify within the rule book, either of the institution, of the community, of the system, wherever you are, or of the nation. You must be able to justify. You don't apply persistent faith to demand something that is not justifiable, that is not legal or legitimate. But when you are on the right track and you know, on the path of righteousness, and you know that the silver bullet to engage, no corrupt leader can resist the persistence of the faith of any politics. No. It will fall ultimately. So all that you need to exercise when you deploy that kind of faith is patience, because it will take some time. But say, let us be like them who with faith and patience obtain the promise. It's a promise of leadership. When you have leaders, there is what they're supposed to deliver to those who are following them. Good things, good benefits. It requires faith and patience to secure it. That's what this parable teaches us. Among many lessons, there are many lessons. I've chosen just to bring out an aspect of them All right? Don't allow bad leadership. If you complain or identify bad leadership, stop complaining. Do what you need to do. There's a silver bullet that has in your hand. Ask for what is due to you. Insist on receiving it. Never give up. Don't lose heart. And don't complain about the fact that, this is an obstacle. Notice in the case of the woman, she was bad enough. She was contending with an adversary. Now, added to that is some corrupt judge. What kind of double trouble is that? But she didn't pay attention to that. She was focused on the end result. So there will always be adversaries in life. There will always be challenges that we'll contend with. There will always be corrupt people who are trying to deprive us of what we do for us, especially leaders, people in places of leadership. But we are not obliged to succumb to them. We are challenged and encouraged and charged by this parable, which is the wisdom of God, to take them on. Not by violence, but by faith. Demanding for what is right, refuse to accept what is wrong. That's what I want to leave with you today. So you see, bad leaders are not to blame. You and I are the followers. We are to blame. We are not necessarily leaders. We may not be leaders like them, but it doesn't make us helpless under them. No follower is helpless under any leader. Only he or she needs a silver bullet, among others, that he or she has access to. And it's time to learn about them and to deploy them. Then our relationship with leaders will be more profitable. And the more we can do that, the more will be the emergence of good leaders, and the less the incidents of corrupt leaders. Let's learn that secret from just one of the 38 parables of Jesus. And this is the kind of thing we talk about for 38 days consecutively, plus an opening day and a closing day on the EQUIP 40-day bootcamp. Every day for 90 minutes, we run through different parables in a particular context, with emphasis not on preaching, with emphasis on practical day-to-day living. All right, because that's the reason that these parables were spoken. They affect character, they show you the way of conflict, they affect leadership, they even help you help. And you want to achieve good success, you should focus on that. You should focus on that. So hope to see you again, I believe, in another quarter, when I'll be speaking on some other important aspect of leadership. Thank you for joining me today. It's been a pleasure bringing all about leadership to you for the month of June, and see you again very soon. God bless you. And don't forget, join the EQUIP program, one of variety of programs that we have at Amen Leadership Academy. God bless you. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy a wonderful month. Productive and progressive month. God bless you. Remember to do leadership right.